Welcome to Expedition Networking, a special segment of the Networking RX podcast. I'm Frank Agan, founder and president of AmSpirit Business Connections, and your host for this program. For those of you who are familiar, on the Networking RX podcast, we share information and have conversations with experts, such as authors, researchers, and social scientists. And all of these programs are aimed at helping you learn how to become better at building professional relationships and understanding why they work. In this Expedition Networking segment, however, we're going to bring on successful entrepreneurs and unique professionals and explore their networking adventure and learn how they used relationships to create lasting success. Today on Expedition Networking, we have Barbara Kelly. Barbara is the sales catalyst and CMO for Growth Solutions team, an advisor and consultant to small business owners. They apply their vast experience in sales of products and services. She helps her clients achieve better results while nurturing their marketing and sales funnel for the Growth Solutions team. She's also a golfer and farmer, and I think those are one and the same, the way I play. A mom and a wife, and her husband is David, and he is the partner with her at Growth Solutions team. Welcome, Barbara.
Hi, Frank. Thanks for having me.
So I guess take us through how you got to this place in time, how you got to, how you guys built the business, where it all came from.
Sure. So I'll start with my career, and I'm much older than I look. I like to joke that. So when I started, I graduated from college with a degree in finance, a BBA in finance. Black Tuesday happened my senior year. And so a lot of folks went into either banking or some kind of sales. I went into financial services and worked for a well-known financial services company and hit the phones cold calling. And my background prior to that had been somewhat entrepreneurial. I had started my own marketing company in college, and I had my real estate license when I turned 18. It was kind of the thing to do in our family, a lot of entrepreneurs. So that wasn't foreign to me. I also, in starting my own financial services business, I was selling product and went through an excellent sales training program, but like most folks had to do, cold calling. And I was thinking about, you asked me this question around networking. That really wasn't a thing so much when I was in my early 20s. I mean, we socialized, but that networking wasn't as prevalent as it is today. Ended up working there for 5 years. One of my clients offered me a position which allowed me to go from business to consumer sales and some business to business sales in the financial services world to B2B. And I really like that. I was working for an IBM business partner. So it was an IT company, and I was selling people. Actually, I didn't understand much of what I was selling because it wasn't very technical, but I knew how to set appointments. I knew how to ask good questions. And that was a really great opportunity for me to grow and learn. I was with that company for about 5 years and then went off on my own under the tutelage of a good friend and started my own headhunting and recruiting firm, still in the same IT vertical. That was great. It also happened to fall in line with my first marriage and the birth of my children. So it presented a lot of flexibility for me to be home and working around my children. Y2K happened. Or didn't happen, I guess. There was a lot of predicted calamity around Y2K, thank goodness. And we had a deluge in the marketplace of technical people, and there was really no need for recruiters to place them. So that market sort of dried up, and I took a little bit of time to focus on my children. Tried to do some, I'll call them at-home type of businesses, everything from party planning, which was interesting. Credit to moms who are trying to do work and businesses around their kids. I think there's a real passion to try and balance your life. And I was one of those folks for a short period of time, but it gave me experience to do more presentation type sales. Again, and public speaking, I went with another company where I was selling health and wellness products and memberships. And I built a large organization with them in the network marketing world over a period of 13 or 15 years. And that worked really well alongside my family. And when my children, interestingly enough, I will say I started to expand on personally networking at that time. I joined a local networking group to try and build out my business among other business owners that they could leverage what I had to offer. I started connecting with people and learning how they operated their cottage businesses or their small businesses. And that taught me how to really effectively connect with folks and understand what was important to them. I hired a business coach along about 7 years ago, and met David, my current husband. I was looking for a way to put my current business in some balance with my life, looking for business to business opportunities again. He helped me do that. I was referring a lot of business to him, and he turned around and said, you should really come and partner with me and help me grow this. And the long and the short of it is I did. And we changed the name of our company a couple of years ago to Growth Solutions Team because it was much more appropriate to the services we were delivering. And so I am the chief marketing officer for our company. I kind of tend to our sales funnel and oversee all things sales, but I also work with our clients in helping them hone their sales and marketing efforts, relationship marketing efforts. And that's where we are today. Sorry for the long story there, but that's it.
I think, my story's probably just as long if you let me, and we're not going to. But I think we all have that. You had said something interesting in there. You're starting out. You're in the financial services realm, working the phones, and then somewhere along the way, this networking thing came in. I guess, were you conscious of it? That
I was conscious of the fact that cold calling in my earlier career, they used to say that was the punishment for not asking for referrals, right?
Yeah.
I got really good at asking for referrals from my customers and even my prospects. But when you switch to business, you have to think about things differently. And I would ask for referrals, but it wasn't always, it was not always fruitful. So trying to think out of the box when I was working my own business and working from home, on how do I connect with folks that either want what I have or might be a conduit to people who want what I have, right? So I was trying to think more strategically. I always tell my clients, don't think about building your network or going to an event and think about it like a game of checkers. Think about it like a game of chess. Think about who is it that they may know and how can you leverage what you have in your network to, build that stronger relationship or connection with people. So I would say it was probably just out of, I don't want to say desperation, but just trying to think differently what was available. And at that time, networking groups and, industry specific groups were I was more aware of them. Let's say, I think they were there for some time, but I was more aware of them and pulling myself back into that business market.
Yeah. I think we all have kind of a similar story where, networking groups per se, LaTip, BNI, really date themselves back, I think, to the mid to early 80s. Let's be honest. Networking is relationships, and relationships have been around forever,
Yeah. I think, and I'm going to go out on a limb on this, but I think they kind of fell into, let's call it, and I'm so not like this, but it was more of a good old boy network, right? Like, hey,
yes.
We played sports together and this and that. So it wasn't that, hey, women weren't allowed. I just don't think it was, because then it was a lot of women's networking groups came about and so forth. So that may have been a part of it. It's like, hey, these guys have been together for years, and who are they going to let into that circle? Right.
Right. Well, I think part of what happened is, I mean, I was alive during this time, but I'm not conscious of what's going on. Right. But we became a very mobile society. So you did have this good old boy network, right? I'm sharing the story the other day. My dad grew up in Chicago. He grew up in a Croatian neighborhood. You know, obviously his parents were there, but his parents, his dad's in-laws were there. I mean, it was just a whole neighborhood of people. And so you had this neighborhood, and then we'd get these cars, and we became very mobile,
Vehicular.
Yeah, yes, right. And we became mobile. And I remember growing up in a suburb of Chicago, and we knew our neighbors. Now, when my wife and I got married, we bought a house in a suburb of Columbus, Ohio, lived on a cul-de-sac for 7 years or 11 different houses. And I knew 2 people.
Yeah. Because you push that button, you pull into your house with your car, right?
Right.
So we were sequestered in our communities.
Right. And so we had to build these good old boy clubs.
Well, I think to your point, I had a community of, I had a community just where I went, whether it was with my children's sports or school, or if I was on a board or something like that. And I always encourage folks, go live your life, be a part of the community, but put that first, right? And let the relationships form. If there's a need, obviously let people know what you do, but it has to happen organically. Otherwise you get what I call it the ick feeling, right? Like, hey, I don't want to be salesy.
Right.
Yeah, I don't want the ick feeling. So don't be that. So I think we naturally have these networks oftentimes because networking is so formalized now. We don't take and utilize our natural networks as well as we should.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
I had a conversation. I'm sorry, I had a conversation with a client yesterday. He's professional services and attorney, super nice guy. And I have this same conversation a lot with folks. And I say, listen, this is not cold calling. This is reaching out to people you have some kind of connection with, and human to human contact.
Right.
Every interaction starts off pretty cold, and just be a decent human being. And if you can build a working referral relationship with that person, that's great. But that's not the first lead in, right?
Yeah. Well, so I was reading in, I think it was Terry Bean's book, Terry, through the Networking Hub. But he says the purpose of networking is not to sell to strangers. The purpose of networking is to find strangers, make them your friends, and then have them refer you business when the need arises. And I think people forget that piece of it. I'm networking, I'm going to go out and I'm just going to, and that's, to use the term ick feeling, that's where people associate networking with that ick feeling. And it's not that at all. Somebody asked me the other day, when do you transition from small talk to, how do you transition out of small talk? And it's like, well, you really don't ever have to. It's about getting to know people, and it's organic. It just happens.
Yeah. I mean, I'm wired a little differently. I could small talk till your legs fall off, right? But that's not serving either of us very well.
Sure.
To your earlier point about networking is about even more bare bones. Networking is about building your list. So if you have a sales funnel, you have all of the people in the universe, they're outside of your funnel. So you're basically making a human connection and building your list. Then you want to basically qualify those folks, right? Are they potential prospects for what you sell? Or are they a strategic partner? Do they have access to people? I mean, it's okay if they're not, and you can still be civil and kind to them, but you also need to determine where you're going to spend your time and energies and resources, right? So, because that is finite. And so I I always want my clients to have some, it sounds harsh, but like a vetting process. How do we pre-qualify the folks that we want to build relationships with? So you, more than what am I going to say, I always like, what am I going to ask? So questions are such a powerful tool that we overlook in the networking. So ask questions and listen. Sales 101. And then, sales 201 is ask open-ended questions and listen, like ask better questions. And so I'm less concerned about, what am I going to say when I'm coaching someone or helping them, and more so equipping them with a process of better, what am I going to ask type of scripting.
I guess my point is it's not formulaic. Every conversation is different. Some people you get on the phone and it's an hour of, I don't want to call it nonsense, but it's truly small talk. And you come away and, I really like talking to this person. Other people, it kind of moves over to business works itself into it a whole lot quicker. And you have to take each situation differently. But I do agree, the vetting thing, totally agree. I mean, there's got to be some discernment as to, is this worth continuing or not?
Yes.
So anyhow.
And, I always encourage clients, and I try to do this myself, is have a clear purpose for the call. So, again, because time is limited for everyone, and the initial reason for our call is, hey, I just want to have a better understanding of who you are, what you do, who you serve. And the reason I'm asking that is not just to see if they're a prospect for my services. I want to know if they're a good person for me to connect to one of my clients, because that's a huge value add that I provide to my clients. Like, I'm going to be an extension of your marketing arm. So tell me, who are your strategic partners, right? And so again, it's almost, I talk about chess, but it's almost like baseball cards, right? You're not good for my team, but I got a guy whose team you would be good for, right? So having a clear purpose for those calls might also help you get to the real meat of the matter. And I'm not saying you do have to build rapport and you have to know, like, and trust each other to a certain degree, but you also want to be respectful of each other's time. But I hear you. Sometimes I'm guilty of that. I like to chit chat. So.
Yeah, and that's okay. I think that's better than people who don't, right? I mean, if you're going to err, I think you err on that side as opposed to the person who just gets right down to brass tacks. And what are some, speaking of baseball, what are you guys looking for, pitchers or catchers? Growth Solutions team, what are you guys looking for? I mean, what opportunities, information, obviously clients,
Yeah. So if I could, I'll share with you my overarching value message, who we are and why we do what we do. So we work with a business owner who has a vision for their company that usually they went into business for themselves to, build something, leave a legacy, help a lot of people, make a lot of money, have time freedom, any combination of those types of values. And they've usually experienced some success, but oftentimes have found themselves stuck. They've hired every cousin and they can't take a vacation, and they're emptying the trash and, bringing in customers. So we help them get real clarity around that original vision. We have them put it down on paper. What are we working towards? What's the engagement about? And then we work with them to create an action plan that supports that vision. I think what makes us different than most companies, just, in terms of, we don't just train, we don't just consult. We take that plan. We not only hold them accountable to taking action, but we get in the trenches and provide resources, assistance, strategies, tactics. We help them take action on that plan. So whether it's strategic introductions or putting together, helping them with a project, or onboarding or finding good people for their team, it's a lot of support and services we provide the business owner. And we do that till their visions are reality. So I work a lot with folks in professional services. They may have I joke they make the donuts, or they've been hammering nails, whether that's law or medicine, and they're going to do this on their own. They struggle oftentimes in putting the CEO hat on often enough to really grow and scale. So professional services, all of that I've mentioned, and then some are huge piece of what we do. And then I also work with some construction, contracting vertical, and those folks are awesome as well. So if you are an owner of such a company and you're struggling to take it to the next level, like what worked to get you at 5 million is probably what's holding you back to get you to 10 million, or 500,000 is going to be a hard time in the professional services, pushing it to 1.2 or 2 million. So we typically have an initial conversation with those owners, get some understanding of what they think the issues are, and then we'll determine if we can help them and what that might look like. Happy to even provide information or ask. A lot of times folks will ask questions, and we'll happily give them our opinion, and the right person on our team will connect them with. I would also say, if you are an advisor to those types of clients and you're helping them in another capacity, but you have that kind of relationship, we can talk. I can help you determine if it's somebody we can help. And I would invite you into that conversation too. You should be part of that, especially if your relationship with the client is that strong, because, we would enlist your help as another consultant to them to make sure that, we're all on the same page and helping them grow or scale. It's hard, I think, for people to refer folks to us, because the real qualifier for our clients is that they need to determine that they want a different outcome than what they have right now, number one. And number two, the reason they're not getting that outcome, in part, is that they're part of the problem. Maybe it's a lack of knowledge, or they're seeing things one way, and it's a reality check. So happy to, and then if we can't help them or the timing's not right, happy to provide them value in whatever makes sense. Connect them to folks who can, guidance, advice, whatever we can help them with. Sure.
No, I think that's a client. I mean, I think the point is, you can help a lot of people. They've got to want it. They've got to,
right. The first step, right?
Yeah. No, I get it.
Yeah. So.
Okay. Fun question for you. How many unread emails are sitting in your inbox?
Ooh. Okay.
And there's all types of this. There's no right or wrong answer. I don't need an exact answer, but just.
I just picked up my phone. So there are 64 right now.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I have to clear out some junk, and some I have to refile, like things I want to read.
Yeah.
That I have to spend some time this weekend and I'll read.
Yeah. The record's 1,500. Just.
Yeah, I almost had that happen the other day when I let loose an email that wasn't floating through. Anyway,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that would freak me out. I'd like to be on top of it, but whatever works. So
that's kind of like that storage unit you haven't touched in a couple of years. Let's face it, you probably don't need that stuff, right?
Or the junk drawer, right? Yeah, exactly. Well, I appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Frank. This was fun. I appreciate you having me on.
Before we wrap up, remember, we're looking for some enterprising business types to join our team as franchisees of AmSpirit Business Connections. Our franchisees work with entrepreneurs, sales representatives, and professionals in their area to help them become more successful through networking in a structured, weekly morning meeting. This is a unique franchise opportunity, as successful business types or professionals can add this on to what they're already doing. Again, all of our franchisees do something else. For a couple hours in the morning, only a few days a week, these franchisees work the AmSpirit Business Connections program. The rest of the time, they're entrepreneurs and professionals of various kinds. The great thing is that this allows them to make more money from professional connections, and at the same time make money building professional connections. Perhaps you know someone, perhaps you are that someone. Whatever the case, to learn more about the AmSpirit Business Connections franchise opportunity, please contact me using the email in the show notes or the one we provide at the end of the program.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AmSpirit.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.